All right, here we are, video number 3, related to the signature assignment. It involves information that is contained on the bottom of page 6 of the information sheet provided for you that is related to the signature assignment on the case study itself. So you'll see me refer to what is my left related to the chart that you see at the bottom of page 6 to deal with the information that's necessary next on the answer sheet for the signature assignment. This is much more technical. It is probably not something we will discuss at any length even later in the semester, but it's important for the computation aspect of this assignment. So what I need you to do is, based on the information you have related to the signature assignment and the information provided in this chart, I'm going to explain it to you. The information in the chart refers to a test that is administered to Mr. Soprano as part of his intake after his presentation in a local ER. Now, the information contained in this particular assessment, the assessment is called the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. We also use the words WAIS number 4 to characterize it. It is a cognitive assessment that basically provides a score, a numeric number, representative of a person's general intelligence quotient, or his, in this case, academic functioning. Now, what this means, when you do a test that is for IQ, it is not so much explaining how smart a person is or is not. What it does is gives the numerical representation of what a person does with information when that information is used in the brain. That may make a little more sense later on down in the term. But for the sake of this exercise, look at the scores on the left, including the verbiage that explains them. In this case, Mr. Soprano's verbal comprehension scores a 96. That's dead average. The average IQ is 100. So if we were to do tests on all of the students in this classroom or enrolled in this class, in this section, the average score would be about 100 plus or minus 10. That is what's considered quote unquote average. Mr. Soprano's score is 96, so it clearly falls in that average range. It's also described 2 columns over where it says average. The perceptual reasoning scale is 92, 2 columns over. It says that's average. The working memory scale is 102, 2 columns over. That says average. The processing speed also is 102. That speed is also considered average in this particular assessment related to his demographic information and the answers he provided for the assessment. So in this case, all of his academic functioning is average. Now, what I need you to do for this part of the exercise, besides pay very close attention, is to remember exactly what I'm going to tell you to do. I promise, if you listen carefully and do it exactly as I say, you will not miss any points related to this section. To get the full scale IQ, which is there's a blank there on the form inside the case study, what I need you to do is to take the 4 numbers that are listed above it and average them. What that means, very plainly in mathematic language, is you should add 96, 92, 102, and 102 and get a number. Whatever that number is, I want you to divide it by 4. That number is the number that goes in the full scale IQ section. Again, let me explain it. Add up the 4 numbers in the column, divide it by 4. That's the number that goes in that blank space there. You should note that that score should be average, which means it should be 100 plus or minus 10. It'll be in that range. Now, if you notice the word range, if you go back up to the right-hand column, in this case, Mr. Soprano's standard score in verbal comprehension is 96. Not only is it average, but the range of average scores in this case is between 91 and 101. What that means is that you take 96, his score, and you do the math to get plus or minus 91 or 100. In this case, 96, to get down to 91, you minus 5. To get up to 101, you add 5. So this will be the case in all of the numbers represented. In other words, range scores will always be typical, meaning that they will most often be exactly the same. So the standard score of 96 plus or minus 5, it gives you a range of 91 to 101. The perceptual reasoning score of 92 plus or minus 5 is going to give you 87 to 97. It's noted in the right-hand column. The working memory score of 102, not only is it average, but plus or minus 5 makes that range a 97 to 107. The processing speed also being 102, not only is it average, plus or minus 5 makes it 97 to 107. All those numbers are listed there for you. Now, you'll notice with the full scale IQ, which was the average score of the 4 scores above it, now in this case, you're going to take that number and add or subtract 5, whatever that number is going to be. It will be the full scale IQ number. Let's just say hypothetically that the number is 100. In this case, it is not. The average score is not 100. It's a different number. But the range for that score would be 95 to 105 in this case. Okay? So remember that when you're adding, subtracting, or multiplying, in this case, you're going to add those 4 numbers in the left-hand column, divide that number by 4, and that will give you your full scale IQ. And we know that the range of those scores is going to be plus or minus 5. Now, the other piece of information you need relates to the percentile. Mr. Soprano's score, whatever the IQ score is you arrive at, lists in the 45th percentile. Now, what that means is that 45 individuals out of 100 scored lower than he did. That also means that out of 100, 55 individuals scored better than he did. Now you take the 55th percentile and the 45th percentile and you end up with 100%. That is just a mathematical number that I need you to pay attention to. In this case, Mr. Soprano scores 45th percentile. That means that 55% of the individuals tested out of 100 would have scored better than he did, while 45% of those would have scored at the same score or lower than he did. That score will average out to plus or minus 5 also to equal the range. May sound kind of confusing. Trust me here. It's not hard to make a mistake, but it's also pretty easy to get it right. Just listen carefully. If you have a question or a concern, you should call. That's what I'm here for. Okay? Now, that ends video number 3. There should be a 4th video, if I remember correctly. We'll talk about a few resources and some possible external interventions you could use for Mr. Soprano in this case study.